Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin, alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how you doing, my brother?
Well, doing good, man. Wildcard weekend is in the books, and it did not disappoint.
It did not, no. And we do apologize for all our viewers out there. We did not have a wild card weekend episode. Both Chris Palmer and I were feeling under the weather. I hope you're feeling better, Palmer. I know I am.
hmm
So you got that tea and you got that herbal tea.
Yeah, no, everything's all shipshape over here. I'm glad you're feeling better as well.
Good, good. So, we hope you all enjoyed Wild Card Weekend. But before we get into our Wild Card Weekend recap, we want to first acknowledge college football, and specifically with the Michigan Wolverines winning the national championship. So, congratulations, Michigan, for winning that title. And I know the state of Michigan is absolutely just going nuts right now.
The state of Michigan is absolutely in disarray right now, with the winning of Michigan in the national title and Detroit winning their first playoff game in over 30 years. There's a party going on right now, and it's focused in Detroit.
Oh, absolutely. So Michigan is the place to be at this current point in time. So, with that being said, let's jump right back into the NFL, and let's start with our wild card weekend recap, starting with the Saturday games with Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans, and it was all Texans all day. CJ Stroud and the Texans put up 45 points against the Browns 14 points. Browns, you are eliminated. Great, hell of a season. But man, Texans look absolutely fierce.
The Texans are that team in the AFC that I just wouldn't want to play right now. That was an unbelievable showing. CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryan, whole bunch of rookies are making it look easy, and that's just the simplest way to put it. They made it look absolutely easy to score on the Browns at will.
Yeah, and Joe Flacco, I commend you, man. That was a great run you had in Cleveland. But since Joe Flacco came into the league this year, he led quarterbacks with touchdown passes with 13, but he also led it with interceptions with 8. And you and I both know that turnovers in the playoffs are costly, and they had two back-to-back pick sixes that sealed the game away for the Cleveland Browns.
hmm
So it was a complete team effort for the Texans to beat the Browns, and hats off to them, man. That was a hell of a performance for them. Um, let's move on to Kansas City, where the Miami Dolphins took on the Kansas City Chiefs in the fourth coldest game in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes' helmet shattered on a tackle, man, but the Chiefs came away with the win, 26-7. Um, Chris Palmer, give me your thoughts on that game.
Um, I mean, obviously, it was so cold; it really didn't matter what was going on. That's really the main focus was just simply how cold it was during that game. But it was more or less just an unraveling on Miami's part. Um, they kind of limped into the playoffs. They had a bunch of injuries. Tyreek Hill had an issue going on off the field with the fire at his home, and it was just the better team won. The more prepared team won. The more experienced team in the postseason won. Um, it was just a telltale the better team won. But hats off to the Dolphins on a great season, and I expect to see them in the playoffs for years to come.
Same. I hope that this season it's easy to look at all the negatives that happened towards the end of the season, but there were a lot of positives to take away for the Miami Dolphins in this season. Tua had his best year as a Miami Dolphin. Mike McDaniels, he is a more than competent head coach, and I think that he should stay with the Dolphins for plenty of years. Tyreek Hill having just another bonks years. But obviously, like you hit the nail on the head, injuries just really hit them at the worst possible time, and they just like you said, they came into the playoffs limping, and this was not the team that they wanted to play round one. Historically, warm weather teams that are great offensive teams do not do well in cold weather games. We've seen it historically throughout the NFL. Just warm weather teams just don't do good in the cold, and this was just another instance in that case. But Miami, you have a lot of great things to look forward to in the offseason. and the future is very bright in Miami.
100%.
So let's move on to Sunday's games with the Green Bay Packers upsetting the Dallas Cowboys 48-32, but the score wasn't even close. The real score was 48-16. It was an utter showing, but man, Jordan Love and the Packers, man, they just had their way with the Dallas Cowboys.
And just like Houston in the AFC side, the Green Bay Packers on the NFC side, they're that team that I just wouldn't want to play right now. That showing was unbelievable. Jordan Love, he may have the best in-season development of any quarterback I've seen in a very long time. His development over the course of this year was impeccable, and to the point where he's playing like a true veteran. We got to give him where credit is due. We've been calling C.J. Stroud a veteran. They played the exact same first
They
game of the
did. Their
playoffs.
stats were nearly identical, which is crazy, which is absolutely fucking nuts. But
I
hats
think
off to the Green Bay
I think they were
Packers.
split by 1 yard,
2 yards.
like 1 yard, 2 yards passing.
Yep.
Total.
That was
So
it.
he's playing out of his mind, and from the looks of it, quarterback position is good for years to come with them specifically.
Absolutely, man. And the future is very bright in Green Bay. Flip side of that, the future is very uncertain in Dallas. A lot of NFL analysts and a lot of sports commentators are really calling for Mike McCarthy's job. There so far in our absence of last week, there have been a lot of coaching vacancies, a lot of teams moving off of head coaches. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys move off Mike McCarthy. But man, what got me was that Dallas just looked completely unprepared. They just looked absolutely unprepared. And it was very shocking because of how impressive they were throughout the regular season. Both offensively and defensively, we gave them credit where Dak had an MVP caliber year. That Dallas defense, you and I were giving it a lot of praise. Micah Parsons and everything. Micah Parsons had his worst game in
In the
his NFL
playoffs.
career. Yeah, and it was, but it wasn't just him. The whole Dallas defense, they just absolutely just gave up on the play, and the game just lost. So, hats off to Matt LaFleur and Green Bay because they were the more prepared team entering that wild card weekend. And Dallas, there's a lot of questions up in the air right now in Dallas, and we expect to find answers soon, but not soon enough for Jerry Jones.
We shall have to see.
So keep an eye on Dallas in the offseason. Let's move on to the second Sunday game, which was the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions. And you said it earlier, this was Detroit's first playoff victory in nearly 30 years. 24-23 by 1 point. Man, this was a great game.
This was such a fun game to watch. Hats off to the Lions and hats off to the Rams too for really they fought all the way to the end. But for the Lions, as good of a win as this was, you got to clean it up coming in this upcoming week.
Yeah, they have a very formidable foe this upcoming week. But man, Detroit, man, this was a well-earned victory. This was a tale of two halves, a very offensive first half and a very defensive second half. And we've seen those games plenty of times before. But man, this was a very emotional game for the city of Detroit because going against Stafford and Goff, their former teams, it was. I think Detroit wanted to play anyone else other than the Rams, but hey, sometimes you gotta come away with those strong victories, and this was a very strong victory for Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to Monday's games. We actually had two games on Monday, which is not common in the NFL, but being that the conditions in Buffalo were extreme snow, winter tundra level of snow, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills game was postponed from Sunday to Monday for them to clear out the stadium. And the Bills ultimately came away with the win, 31-17. Good win for Buffalo, but man, the Steelers they fought. They fought very hard in that game. But Chris Plummer, give me your thoughts on the Steelers that game and just for their season.
I mean, overall, got to give credit where credit is due. Again, you made a playoff run, but this is the 5th playoff loss in a row. It's the 5th in a row where we've won and done. Maybe even 6th, if I'm not mistaken. It's become very apparent that we can't win without TJ Watt on the field, which is very unfortunate. And, there's 1 year left on Tomlin's contract. He said he has all intentions to coach with the Steelers. We gotta do something. We gotta look into an offensive coordinator. We have a lot of issues that we need to close up, but that's all for the off season, and this is where the time starts.
Absolutely. And do you feel, with the absence of Matt Canada, that this is going to be at least a step in the right direction for the Steelers organization?
Well, yeah, of course. I said that as it happened that was the starting point.
Yeah.
But again, I've been very blunt about it being one of the issues, not all of the issues.
Exactly.
We have a lot of execution problems, and that it just rained through. As good as Mason Rudolph was at the end of the year, going into this game, one of my core concerns was watching that mediocrity show itself. As good as he was playing, I am a Steelers fan. I know what he is. And what he is a backup quarterback. What he will give you is an 8-8 season. He will give you 3 wins, and then he will lose you 4 games in a row and play terribly those 4 games. That is what he is. That is what he does. And that is what happened.
Yep. It was just, time was up. It was just time was up for
right. His car
Mason
was
Rudolph for the yeah, exactly. And let's move on to the final game on Monday, which was the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You want to say that Mason Rudolph's card was up? Nick Sirianni's card was up. This was an absolute thrashing by the Bucs, 32-9 against the Eagles. And man, they looked like they did not want to play that game in the first quarter.
They were non-existent.
And as bad as, like you said, that the execution problems were for the Steelers, there just wasn't any execution for the Eagles whatsoever, offense or defense. So this was this was big, but you and I, we called it too. We both picked the Bucs to win this game because we had no faith in the Eagles because they've just been struggling all year long. Like since that Buffalo win in overtime, they went 1-6, and it was not pretty.
Great game for Baker Mayfield. I want to give a shout out to Jason Kelce, who announced his retirement to his teammates in the locker room after the game. He said he was leaving. It went across. Adam Schefter was saying the same thing today. So it's only a matter of time. Give it days, and it will be an official retirement announcement. So I wanted to say a thank you to Jason Kelce. But as for that game, you saw a lot of visible frustrations coming from the Eagles roster. Eagles going to coaches, people going at each other, just Jalen Hurts looking visibly frustrated. There's a lot of frustrations, and it's starting to come. We backtrack to about week 5, week 6, when they were having Jalen Hurts do fumble recovery practices. There's trust issues going across that locker room. So I think that that high horse that old Philly was up for a while, I think they're on the way down. And they're on the way down quick.
Oh, yeah. Much like Dallas has a lot of questions to answer this offseason, so does Philly. They have a lot of questions to answer for. I think there was a columnist that said it best for Philly, where they've hired Philadelphia has fired better coaches for less. And so
right,
Howie Roseman, the GM, he and Jeffrey Lurie, I think they are going to be like, hey, it might be Nick Sirianni's time, which is, that's the nature of the NFL. So be it. But you can't lose a locker room as a head coach. That's the thing. If you lose the players' belief that in their ability to win, you've completely lost it as a head coach. And I think that from what all the rumors have been saying and all the inside sources and everything, it seems to be that there's going to be a big changes in Philly this upcoming offseason.
Well, that would be a big name to be floating in The pool. We had to keep an eye out.
Well, there's a lot of big names floating in that pool right now, but we're gonna keep an eye on all the head coaching changes this offseason because there's a lot of big names there. But that will come for that offseason episode. Right now, this is the divisional episode, so we want to move on to this divisional round slate of games. So, Chris Palmer, you ready to talk some games this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. And how about you start us off with the Ravens and the Texans?
Oh man, so that's the Saturday game. Uh, man, as I'm nervous, man. As much as like I'm so happy how the Ravens been this season. Lamar had a stellar year. Um, Again, I don't think he should be MVP. I think other people should be MVP ahead of him. Uh, Ravens defense absolutely impeccable. One of the best defenses in the league. Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, just absolutely going off. Justin Matabike had a career year. Just there was so many great things to be proud of as a Ravens fan this year. But I'm very nervous going into this game because the Texans are a extremely, extremely good team. And this is a week one rematch. We played week one, and it seems like forever ago when we played that game, and we won 25-9. We did not give up a touchdown. We gave up 9 points. So I was like, but I remember coming onto the podcast and telling you, Palma, I was like, I'm happy we won, but I was disappointed with how we were because I felt like we could have been better. And the offense did not click as efficiently as I wanted it to. The defense was fine, but it was just that it was just that week one of like it just didn't look right. And obviously, as the season has gone on, both the offenses have clicked for not only the Ravens but also the Texans as well, because C.J. Stroud has gotten very comfortable and very understanding. Like again, he has that veteran mindset. He knows exactly where to go with the ball. He places it where he needs to go. But obviously, this is going to be a different game than it was week one. We know what both teams know what to expect from one another. There's plenty of film on the Texans. There's plenty of film on the Ravens now. Like in that week one, C.J. Stroud was 28 for 44, 242 yards, 0 touchdowns, zero interceptions. But it was a lot to ask for a rookie on your first game to throw 44 times. I expect this game to be a little bit run-oriented game. I expect a little bit more of Devin Singletary in this game. And I think the way that the Texans are going to attack that defense, as great as our defense has been playing this year, it's not perfect by any means. There is a weakness there. If teams can run the ball on us, they can really have their way. And I would expect D'Amico Ryans to understand that as a coach. And also, I wanted to give a shout out to D'Amico Ryans. I would put him as Coach of the Year this year for how impressive the Texans were this year and how impressive they are as a team. I would put him seriously in Coach of the Year contention because he has done a phenomenal job for Houston, and they are going to be contenders for years to come. But I'm fearful. I don't want this to be another 2019 instance where, again, the Ravens were great, best team in the league. Lamar had another stellar year. He had his MVP year and everything. But we were extremely rusty right out the gate. And the game got away from us. And I don't want that to happen this week. I hope that John Harbaugh prepares the team for that because I think that this Texans team this year is a lot better of a team than that Titans team in 2019. And
and it's really not close.
Yeah. And I'm excited for this game. If I was not a Ravens fan, I would be excited to watch it objectively. But I can't watch it objectively because my stomach's going to be in a big knot the whole time. But man, it's going to be a great game regardless. And I would not be mad at the Texans for winning. I would, depending on how the game would go, I'd be more upset with the Ravens losing, much like it was with Week 1, where it's like I thought we could be better. So it all depends on how the cards fall. It's all speculative and everything, but I'm just fearful of rust. If I can just encapsulate it like that, I'm just fearful we're going to be rusty.
Yeah, this is it's kind of like what I was talking about like last week. It's the two sides of the same coin where which would you prefer? Would you rather the time off, or would you rather to keep a fluid machine moving? Because an object in motion can easier stay in motion than go back from stopped and then keep going. So you are very well right to be at least a little bit concerned going into this game. The Texans are absolutely on a tear. I don't understand. Again, it seems like they forgot that there's supposed to be a little bit of struggle with a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback and a bunch of rookies on the offensive side. They seem to forgot that part. And then not selling you guys short at all. You guys are primed for a Super Bowl this year. But that time off with the cold weather and everything, that's again, it's a season of attrition, and that's where fatigue starts to set in. Everyone knows when it starts getting cold and you come inside and knowing you got to go back outside, that shit puts a drain on you. Mentally, it puts a drain on you physically. You just don't want to go back outside. I hope for your guys' sake that the rust isn't there, but I could only expect it a little bit, at least in the beginning stages of this game. I almost feel like you guys are going to be playing from behind early because Houston's going to come out the gate and try to maybe come down from like a 10-0 early up in the first half. It'll be up by 10. And then from there, it's going to be off to the races to see if you guys can shake off that rust, shake off whatever you need to shake off to come back and win. Your defense, I really don't find many flaws in. I haven't all year. It's just going to be how CJ Stroud can navigate through that offense, through that defense. And this is going to be his biggest test by far when it comes to a defense in his way, on a way to a Super Bowl, if that's where he is destined to go. Objectively, I'm so excited for this game. This weekend is crazy on the bracket, and to start with this game is nutty.
It is, and there's so many individual matchups that I'm really looking forward to as well. I'm looking forward to Marlon Humphrey on Nico Collins. I think that's going to be a fantastic matchup to have on. I'm also just curious as to see Roquan Smith just kind of play to CJ Stroud, because Roquan has been the quarterback of our defense. That was probably the best pickup the Ravens got in a trade acquisition in like 10 years. His involvement with our defense has been night and day. Like our defense has been elite because of him, which is just crazy to think about. He reminds me again of just like Ray Lewis on the field. He's everywhere. He's like everywhere number 0 is just on the field everywhere, north, south, east, west, and he reads the quarterback. He knows exactly what the quarterback's going to do, and it's a very impressive showing. I think the way to attack it though is our second and third corners. I would expect him to challenge Brandon Stevens, who's had a great year this year. I would expect him to challenge Brandon Stevens a little bit, number 21. And also Amar Davis, number 10, our third-string cornerback. So I would expect him to challenge that. So keep an eye on Dalton Schultz, because he has really found a home in Houston.
He's a difference maker.
He has really found a home in Houston, and I think they utilized him effectively in Houston. I was not a fan of him when he was in Dallas too much, but I like him a lot better in Houston, because he's one of those guys where it's like once you forget about him, then he pops up for a big gain, and it's like, holy shit, she's fucking tearing up the field for 40 yards right now. It's just
Right.
But I do agree with you. I do expect us to be a little rusty. I would not be surprised if we had to play from behind, but I'm I kind of want to see, be like, hey, look, let's get the gears turning. Let's just get it rolling. Just get it rolling. Because for me, the way it started in 2019 was Lamar had a bad interception to Kevin Byard. And from that we got away from the running game. I would expect us to commit to not only Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, but also our new acquisition of Dalvin Cook. I'm interested to see how he's going to be incorporated into the offense as well. I would expect to see him in a couple, different packages and everything, but I don't want us to stray from the running game because that's our greatest strength. But man, this is going to be a great game, man. And no matter who loses this game, both teams should be very proud of what they've accomplished this year. The Ravens for obvious reasons, and the Texans because they are just I can't commend them enough for the season that they've had. They've had such an impressive season, offense, defense, coaching, and with extremely young talent, and stars are emerging in Houston. And it makes football very interesting to see the next generation of talent like C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins. It's so great, man.
Yeah, watching the next wave of talent. And I told you this a couple of years before we even started this podcast, that the talent coming out of college across the board was just out of this world for the next 5 to 10 years straight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just time and time again, you see great skill players, you see great running backs, you see great quarterbacks, you see great defensemen. It's just the talent coming out of college. These athletes are on a different level than what we've been used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this game.
To your point, it's crazy too to think about where it's like when Andrew Luck his rookie year, it's like he had the most impressive rookie year by any quarterback. A couple of years down the road, Justin Herbert had one of the most impressive rookie years by any quarterback. And then just a few years later, C.J. Stroud tops that.
Has arguably the most impressive rookie year ever.
So it's just crazy to think about, like to your point, where just some of the talent in college is just head and shoulder. It's just getting better, and that's the evolution of the game of football, where it's like these players are just getting better, and positions are changing too, where like some players play more of a hybrid position too. And on both either offensively or defensively, we see it both ways. And it makes the game so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Watching this evolution of football and watching, again, like you said, this next generation, especially this next generation of quarterbacks, is great. It's so much fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I'm so excited for it. So, Chris Palmer, any final thoughts on this game?
It's not really, just keep an eye out on Houston, man, because, again, you don't want to slip in front of them because they will just mow you over. This game is going to be so much fun. Very high-scoring game, I feel.
Man, it would be great to see. So we're not going to wait till the end of this episode to do our picks. So, Chris Palmer, I ask you right here, right now, who you got? We don't do that in playoffs, baby.
I
we
know,
do it right.
I forgot.
You know who I'm taking. I'm taking my Ravens. I have to.
I'm sorry, Hoppin.
I don't blame you.
I'm sorry. I got to go with Houston on this one.
I respect it, brother. I don't blame
object of motion
you.
stays in motion, man. It's just what it is.
Yeah, but no, and I don't blame you because the Texans are an extremely good team, and so believe me, there's no hard feelings there. But oh man, exciting game to watch, and that's just the first game on Saturday. The second game on Saturday, maybe even better, with the Packers coming to San Francisco to play the 49ers. And you want to talk about an object in motion stays in motion? The Packers have been in motion the whole year, especially in the back end of the year. They have just been extremely impressive. But man, that win against Dallas was that may have been the best Packer win under the Matt LaFleur era.
I agree.
Would you agree? Yeah.
100%. 100% I agree. Hats off to the Packers for that win. And again, hats off to Jordan Love, man. His in-season development this year from about, I think it was like maybe week 6, maybe week 7, we saw something change in the offense of Green Bay where Matt LaFleur kind of took the restrictors off and said, hey, we're going to let you throw the ball a lot. We'll let you throw it. We'll let you throw it deep, and we're going to see what happens. And at first, it was a little bit of an ugly transition. Not a lot of people liked it. But then you started seeing Jordan Love's accuracy and confidence build up. But then if you remember when he was in college, that's all he ever did was air that fucking ball out. Dude's got a cannon of an arm. He's got an absolute cannon. And he's precise. He is so fucking accurate. It's unbelievable. He is so disciplined with the ball. It's, again, hats off, just like with CJ Stroud, man. He is the future. Just like the other side with Brock Purdy, he's the future of this league with these young quarterbacks. Keeping the same thing as previous game, though, the concern is rust. You know, the Niners had off, and the Packers are coming off of a huge win.
Mm-hmm.
I said it in the recap. I'll say it again. I don't want to be the team playing Green Bay right now. I don't care who it is. I don't want to be the team to play Green Bay right now.
Absolutely not, bro. Absolutely not. And it's funny, too, because there's so many parallels with the Packers and the Texans, where both teams, there's rising stars, young rising stars in both of them. Offense and defensive side of the ball for both teams. Both quarterbacks are not only extremely talented, but also extremely smart, too. They're very smart
so disciplined. It's crazy.
They're so disciplined, but they're extremely smart, though. And that's the thing, like, when you say in-season development, because it was not without its struggles. Like, there were times, like, you and I, we were like, like Jordan Love, we're not too sure about him and everything. But then, like you said, weeks 5, 6, and 7, it just clicked. And then by the time the Thanksgiving game came around, we were so kind of focused on Detroit that the Packers were like, nah, this is us.
Right.
We are here.
We're awake.
They made us. Like, and they did it on a national stage, Thanksgiving Day, where the Detroit Lions, they were been red hot all year, and the Packers were like, no, you can't forget us because we are up and coming, and they proved it too. Like, everyone I know except you picked the Cowboys to win. you were the only one that were like, nah, Dallas is gonna get this, and hats off to you for that, man, because you saw it. But man, this was the most complete game by the Packers, offensive and defensively, and I think for Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, they didn't want to play the Packers because
Absolutely not.
Because Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan know each other extremely well because they've been on the same coaching staff before. Like, McVay, Shanahan, and LaFleur were all on Washington for a couple years.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. And
Wasn't
so
that Ted Ginn's final year?
In Washington?
Ted Ginn Jr.? Wasn't he in Washington for his final year?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know. But they were all on the same staff. They know each other very well. That's why McVay and Shanahan, when they go at it, it's very tough games, very competitive games. And it's funny, too, because LaFleur and Shanahan, they have met in the playoffs before. Multiple times, too. Like, a couple years ago with the NFC title game, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers came to San Francisco, and the 49ers absolutely crushed them. And then a couple years later, the 49ers came to Green Bay in the divisional round, and with a block punt won that game against the Packers, if you remember that one. So there's a lot of history here between the Packers and 49ers. And when Aaron Rodgers was playing the 49ers was kind of his kryptonite. He could never really beat the 49ers. No matter if it was Kyle Shanahan, Jim Harbaugh, he just couldn't really get over them. But this one, I think for the 49ers, is like they did not want to play the Packers, especially coming off that momentous win. They looked so good. Also, I want to give a shout out to Aaron Jones, man. People like, including us, we have like forgotten about him because he has not been healthy this year. But when he is healthy, he's a top 5 running back easily.
100%.
And he proved it this game against Dallas. And we praised that Dallas defense, but man, they just absolutely crushed it. And so I got to give a shout out to Aaron Jones there because he is absolutely incredible when he's healthy. I think he had like 170 rushing yards last week, which is insane.
You see, and that's what's crazy is earlier in the year with that injury, with him being injured, and they had to go across. I like AJ Dillon as well. Them two as a duo is lethal, and then now you catch a Jordan Love who has finally hit his stride as a starting quarterback. That's a dangerous Green Bay team.
It is a dangerous Green Bay. Mm-hmm.
No one wants to play that Packers team, and I feel bad for the 49ers right now having to play this weekend.
But I will say the bye week definitely got not only the 49ers healthier, but also the Ravens as well. Mark Andrews and Kyle Hamilton could possibly. I know Kyle Hamilton will actually be starting this game. Mark Andrews might play. He might be a game time decision, but he might be able to make it this week. And for the 49ers, Trent Williams is actually going to be starting. He will be.
He's going to be in.
Yeah. So and you've said it before. He is probably the most important player for the 49ers. Like we have C-Mac, we have Purdy, we have all these, but he is the anchor, the linchpin to this 49ers offense. And he's going to be playing.
100%.
And then that's exactly what they need to. The thing is for me is again, I like that Green Bay offense to challenge that 49er defense. I think that they have the young stars to challenge them and make it difficult for them. But my question is the other side of the ball. Who on the Packers defense is going to stop Debo, Kittle, C-Mac, Ayuk? And if you stop one, you got the other three.
Right. You're still going up against the most versatile offense in the league. It's just what it is.
Precisely. And much like how it was, like I said, for the Ravens, I would expect the 49ers to lean on C-Mac very early on in the game. Run to open up the pass. That's what I kind of expected a little bit because it's so tough to stop Christian McCaffrey. And especially when they load up that box, you get one-on-one coverage on the outside, it's going to be very difficult and very tight. But I would expect them to run the ball. Again, much like the Texans-Ravens game, I would expect this game to be a little bit more run-oriented of a game than pass-happy. Maybe in the second half, but in the first half, a little bit more on the run. You see a lot of Aaron Jones and you see a lot of Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, at least in the early onsets, there's going to be I feel like there's going to be a big feeling out process here. Like you said, this is a different Packers team coming in to meet the Niners, and the Niners, they better do their homework and be very well prepared because this Packers team has one-punch knockout power.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side, so do the Niners. So consider this one a prize fight. So this is going to be a feel-up process for maybe the first quarter and a half. And then it's going to be off to the races, man. You're going to see big play after big play after chunk play after chunk play. And it's going to come down to it. The more disciplined team is going to win. Who has less turnovers at the end. Who doesn't have a bad penalty at the end of the game. Who does, again, it's going to come down to the little things that a lot of people don't look at. The nitpicking part. Because these teams are going to be playing so well against each other that it's going to come down to the most minimal of mistake that's going to cause the biggest of problems.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think not only the most disciplined team, but the most prepared team. because that was the big difference between Green Bay and Dallas last week. Green Bay was prepared. Dallas was not. I expect both teams to be prepared this week, but who's going to be the most prepared team? Who's going to do their homework? Who's going to do that extra film study? That's going to be the difference as well. So, man, but I'm so excited for this game, man. This is going to be so good. Chris Palma, I ask you right here, right now, who you got? He's thinking. He's mulling it over, folks.
This is one of the hardest games that we probably had to pick all year. Give me Green
Can
Bay.
I tell you who I'm picking? Okay.
Object of motion stays in motion, man. It's just going status with that.
I respect it, brother. I respect it. I'm going to go San Fran because I just think that there's so much on both sides of the ball that could overwhelm the Packers. But that doesn't mean I don't think the Packers are going to make it a fight against the Niners, because I think it's going to be a hell of a fight. And I'm so excited for this. Oh, absolutely. Oh, man. So those are the games on Saturday. Let's move on to Sunday's games, starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions, man. Woo! God damn.
If you told me 3 years ago that Baker Mayfield would be going into Detroit and Detroit would be hosting a playoff game against him and his team that is playing out of this world, I would laugh at you.
And either Baker Mayfield or Jared Goff will be in the NFC Championship game.
I would laugh at you. but
here we are.
God, here we are. These are probably the two most blue-collar teams in the league that have just forever been beaten to their knees, coming to each other as Titans and just getting ready to throw haymakers at each other. This is probably the most electric game on the entire bracket. I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah, it's funny too because I ask people like about this game, and I think everyone's like, they're happy with the result either way, whether it's Bucs Lions. Yeah, it's just so good. But I just want to say a few things real quick. Baker Mayfield belongs on Tampa, and they would be insane not to sign him to an extension, because he much like what you said a couple weeks ago, CP, where it's like he fits exactly their MO, exactly what Tampa Bay is. He fits their culture extremely well, and he does what is asked of him extremely well, and he loves to sling it. Him and Mike Evans look like they've been doing this for years.
Right. It is their first season together. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's so great to watch. And also on the flip side too, Jared Goff looks like he belongs in Detroit, man. He's exactly what the Lions have been wanting for. And again, Stafford was exactly what they needed. But I think now Goff is what they've wanted, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to piggyback off of that, Detroit is what Jared Goff needed.
100%. Absolutely. 100%.
You know, with everything that went on with him at the end of LA, I heard an interview with him that he was really down on himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything that happened in LA before the trade and leading up to the trade and so forth, he was very down on who he was as a quarterback. And Dan Campbell and the entire locker room helped build him into the person that he is. And through the ashes of everything that he's gone through, he has turned himself into such a good quarterback in Detroit. He is that culture as well. Again, it's just two quarterbacks that have been pretty much slandered and just outright downgraded their entire careers. Just totally found two teams that needed a quarterback and needed people to answer the cultures. And that's just what has happened. And now we have them. It's fun to see the Bucs and the Lions in the postseason. You want that to happen because it's fresh. You know, when you see teams that don't go to the postseason end up there and they playing each other, it's just that much better for the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy too that this is the Bucs' fourth year in a row in a playoff appearance. Obviously, the other
Hmm.
three were with Brady.
Right.
But it seems that with Baker Mayfield, this Bucs team is better than Brady's last year in the Bucs. And last
I
year we were
agree.
talking about how disastrous they looked. But obviously, let's be honest now. It hasn't changed that much from what it was last year to this year. The only real difference is you got some younger talent, but the problem with Tampa is that they're a 4-1 passing team against or than a rushing team. They love to sling that ball. And with against Philly, that was perfect. That's exactly what you needed to do because Philly's defense gave up so many passing yards in the back half of the year. Um, I think w- looking at the film, they're going to be more inclined to do that again. But I don't want that to escape the fact that Rashad White, their very young running back in Tampa, he's a stud. He's an absolute stud. And I want to give a shout out to not only him, but also Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery are running backs for the Lions as well. These running backs are absolute studs. It's crazy too because in Saturday's games, I was like, I expect a more run oriented game. I expect a very more pass happy game in this game, because think of all just the talent in on both sides of the field on either offense. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Reynolds, Jameson Williams, Kate Otten. It's just loaded with just
Is Sam Laporta supposed to be playing?
yeah, he's
I thought
playing.
he had a knee
I,
injury. But he had a knee injury.
I think he's playing if I'm not mistaken.
I'll
Um,
look.
but there's just so much. I would expect this game is to be an air raid. I expect a lot of passing this game, and much like the opposite of Saturday's games, where they're going to run to set up the pass. I think in this game, in this instance, they're going to pass to set up the run.
So Sam Laporta, he was a full participant in practice today.
Okay.
So yeah, you
I,
could pretty much expect him to play.
yeah, I would expect him to play.
All right.
But man, this is going to be such a fun game. I also want to say to Jared Goff again, much like to your point, where like these quarterbacks needed a city and a coach that like believed in them because their previous destination they didn't really believe in them that much. This one because of expectations. Once they moved cities and moved teams, their expectations changed and they well exceeded that. Highly exceeded their own expectations. Jared Goff in his last 5 games that he's played, he's won 4 out of the 5 games, but he has a 71 completion percentage in that five
Mhm.
games stretch. That is impressive
Unheard of.
to an to a degree of like beyond Hall of Fame level at that point. Now, I'm not saying like Jared Goff is a Hall of Famer. I think he needs a little bit more accolades behind him to really say that. But 71 completion percentage, you are laser focused and you are seeing the
Yeah,
field
that's huge.
like you're seeing the field like an omnipotent being at that point. You're like, I know exactly where
Right.
you're going to be, and I know, and I'm going to place the ball only where you can catch it. And man, but Baker Mayfield, he's just having fun too, man. It's just so fun watching these teams. And I do also want to give a shout out to 2 defensive studs on both sides, on both teams. Levante David had one of his best years this year in middle linebacker for Tampa Bay. He's had one of his best years, and a lot of people have not been saying his name that often, but man, he has been a stud this entire year. And then I want to give a shout out to Aiden Hutchinson, man. He has like brought so much energy to the city of Detroit and that defense. It is ferocious and it's so revitalizing for Detroit.
Shit, on Detroit side, man, it's kind of like the- it's like a battle of duos on the defensive side. You have Levante David and Vita Vea on the Bucs. You
Mm-hmm.
know, Vita Vea is kind of post prime, but he's still 350 pounds of angry
He's a
D
beast.
lineman.
He's a beast.
And then on the other side, you have Aiden Hutchinson. Don't forget about Jack Campbell, man. Jack Campbell's a fucking dog, too. He's a rookie, and he's a
He's a
dog.
rookie.
And he's a rookie, dude. And him and Aiden Hutchinson are one of the nastiest duos in the league right now. As a sophomore and a rookie. They emulate the absolute culture of Detroit in the best way, and the two of them emulate the Tampa Bay culture on the defensive side. I'm so excited for this game.
Chris Bowman, who you got? Who you got for this game, man? I gotta know. I'll tell you what, CP. I'll tell you who I got. I got Detroit. I got Detroit winning this game, and it was extremely hard because you look at the stats, you look at the tape, and it's just like both teams are going to put up points. I think both quarterbacks are going to go well over 300 yards, touchdowns. It's just going to be those small differences, those one turnover, one penalty. It's going to be that difference. But I'm going Detroit.
Been riding with Dan Campbell for so long. I can't not. I gotta go with Detroit.
Detroit, baby, Detroit.
Going to war for Dan Campbell, man. This is what it is.
So I want to also give you a stat real quick. So since 1996, so since the Cowboys have won their last Super Bowl, 27 years ago, or 28 years ago now, there's only been 4 teams that have not made the conference championship matchup in that time. The Cowboys, the Browns, the Texans, and the Lions. So, let's see if history is made.
Shit.
Okay, so that is an electric matchup between the Bucs and the Lions. But we have one more matchup to talk about. And this might be one of the hardest ones. It's the Chiefs coming to the Bills in the divisional round. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. This is their 3rd meeting in the playoffs. Their 6th meeting in total. It's starting to look like Brady Manning at this point. But
It's
man,
Patrick
Chris
Mahomes' first road playoff game.
Yes.
Think about that fucking thing.
His first road playoff game other than a Super Bowl, which is fucking nuts.
Right. It's 15 games in the postseason he's played at home.
Well, he's played 15 in total, but 12 at home. Because he's played 3 Super Bowls.
Right, not counting the 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, so
right.
But man,
he's had 12 home games in the postseason, and he's going on the road into Buffalo, which is, again, they're expecting damn near winter tundra-like weather this weekend. So this game may too be changed. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But this is just, like you said, this is becoming like a Brady Manning type of deal. Just year in, year out, watching these two go at it. The two defenders of the AFC in the playoffs. This one's going to be fun. This one's going to be different. These are not the same teams, especially with the Chiefs, man. They are not the same Chiefs team, and it shows specifically because they are now on the road. They are not the dominant team where they can just have the home field advantage all postseason. They have to travel, and that shows that they are not the same team. If that doesn't to anybody, then you don't know what you're watching. They have the most drops out of any team.
Yes.
And that should be a huge concern.
Oh, especially last week against Miami, too. Kelsey did not look good as the Hall of Fame tight end that he is. He did not look particularly well. However, they did have Rashee Rice step up in that game, and he looked phenomenal in that game. And he's been one of those rookies where he's kind of slowly earning his keep as a rookie. But my question to the Bills is, if not now, when? If now is not the time to beat the Chiefs, when? Because this is the most vulnerable Chiefs team under the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era. Like you said, their offense has not been as efficient as it has been in years past. They can't make those tremendous comebacks as we've expected them to over the years. They just can't do it this season. Now, who's to say that's not next season? But that's next season. But this season. If not now, when? Because the Bills are on a 6-game winning streak right now. They're on fire right now. Josh Allen is still this is his 4th consecutive year with over 40 touchdowns. It's like running and passing combined. And man, this Chiefs team is not an offensively driven team. It's a defensive team that has been, which is weird to say because it's like for years we've always considered them like, oh, they're going to put up like 30 to 40 points every week. No. They're going to put up maybe 20, maybe
right, 21 to 25.
But they're going to hold the other team to about
10.
20 as well. They held the Miami offense, the number 1 ranked offense, to 7 points. And yes, the weather did have a big factor in it too. But even when they played in Germany, held them to 14 points. Their defense is real, and I got to give a huge shout out to Chris Jones, man. He is one of those Hall of Fame players that not many people also talk about as well. He is a absolute stud, and he is again the linchpin of that defense. But much like him, with say even though he's a nose tackle, like the equivalent to say Nick Bosa in San Fran, right? Absolutely dominant.
In terms of importance?
Of importance, yes. Like the anchor.
Okay.
Yeah. He has his sidekick to help him out, George Karlaftis, the 2nd-year edge rusher. And he has been quietly having a phenomenal season.
Animal.
Yes. And that both of their involvement, and also with Trent McDuffie, their 2nd-year cornerback, and was it Ladarius Sneed? This Chiefs defense is actually scary good right now. But man, you flip it to the Bills, man. Well, like you've been saying all year, or this whole episode. If that's the whole theme of the episode, an object in motion stays in motion. We might as well just put that as Newton's law. It's Newton's law. But the Bills are in motion, man, and it's hard to say like how they're going to stop them because James Cook, he's a stud rookie running back for the Bills, and he's exactly what they've needed since. And it's crazy, too, because when you change personnel... Bless you.
Sorry.
Woo!
Sorry.
You're good. So, earlier this year, the Bills fired Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator. I'm not sure if you remember last year, but he was the one, slamming the clipboard in the Miami game last year.
Yes.
That was it. They fired him. They fired him this year. Since they fired him, they've been 7-1. And they have found a balance to their offense. They're not. Josh Allen does play hero ball, but they're not relying on him every game. They spread it out. They spread out the field. He's not under that much pressure. They just get it done. And it's so great to see. And it's like, look, you're a red-hot Bills team. You have home field advantage. This is a vulnerable Chiefs team. If not now, when?
This is the only chance. Because this may be the only time that we see a Chiefs team that is down and out when it comes to offensive production. This will not be next year when it comes to the Chiefs offense. That you can almost guarantee. And that just comes with the experience and the respect and the renown of Andy Reid as a coach. He sees the flaws that are going on. And he's rolling with the punches and he's doing what he can. This will not be a thing next year for the Chiefs on offense. So if you can't beat a down and out offensive production Chiefs team, there may not be a chance for you in Buffalo. there may not be next year because
At least for
the
Sean McDermott.
AFC, when it comes to talent, is getting way too close for you to pull up the chance with any of these teams. Every team is now is clawing at playoff spots. Teams that you thought were shoo-ins are getting in the middle of the road. These two teams specifically, you almost would think that these two teams would have clinched mega early. They come rolling in, and they got to fight for it. Chiefs got a road game.
I know.
It's totally different. And it's going to be totally different again next year. So, Bills, this is your one chance.
If
one
not
chance
now,
right
when?
now.
Yeah. Much like Eminem says, you got one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Shut up, but who do you got?
Man, this game has been so difficult for me to pick. But I gotta balance it out. It's like, okay. Offense, I'll give it to the Bills. Defense, I give it to the Chiefs. Coaching, I give it to the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs. And I know that's not the popular pick, and I won't be mad if I'm wrong. Believe me, I won't be mad if I'm wrong. But in these matchups, in playoff mode for Andy Reid and Mahomes, they're extremely reliable, man. So I'm taking the Chiefs. It's not the popular pick, and I'm sorry for a lot of people of Buffalo. But yeah, that's what I'm going with. Chris Palmer. I think I know who you're going with. If we're going with Newton's Law, I think I know who you're going with. It's tough.
See, this one's hard. This one's very hard. I've been very critical about the Bills and their control with the ball, their Josh Allen specifically being as reckless as he is with the ball. So you want to go into a balancing statement, right? Better offensively, I would have to give it to the Bills. Better defense, of course, you got to go with the Chiefs. Coaching, I would go with the Chiefs. Discipline, I would go with the Chiefs. All hands look for the Chiefs, man. As much as I want to go with the object of motion, I can't put the trust in the Bills. It's hard for me to say I can trust the Bills to come out and win this game. It's going to be hard, but I think the Chiefs are still going to come out on top.
Wow. I am shocked, CV. I really.
You got to give me the Chiefs.
I thought you were gonna go with the Bills, and I was surprised, man. But I respect it. It's so tough because for any of these games from here on out, any team can win it. Any team can win it, and we've seen bigger upsets before. But the divisional round matchup is where history is made. And
it's where history is made.
It's where history is made. And we are here for a historic division round matchup. So, Chris Palmer, you want to send us out?
Yeah. There you have it, folks. Divisional weekend is underway. These games are going to be sick. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you are feeling coming on for an interview, please message myself or John, and we will try and schedule something for next year. We would love to have you on. Come on, talk to your team. But as for these games, please let us know what you think. Who do you think is going to win? Let us know.
Let us know, man. We love to hear your thoughts, ideas, and opinions, man. So, but man, we're in for a great divisional round matchup. So until then, we will see you next week on Let's Talk Football.
Cool.